All right, I want to welcome everyone to our October webinar. This is going to be an exciting one. First of all, we've got Tiffany Roussel on the phone. For those of you that don't know, she has over 11 years experience with the top 100 CPA firms in the tax technology space, in a variety of leadership roles, doing the tax work, working with people, working with clients, process, technology. She's kind of got it all. So we're lucky enough to have her on our team. And we have a two-part series. This is part one. The next part two, will be done in December of this year. And it's really, how do I prep for busy season, right? How do I use automation and technology to prep for busy season? And gosh, it's October 21st. Isn't it too late for that? But we're going to say to you today, it is not too late. It is not too late to get started. There's certain things you could do now through the end of the year that can help you for a busy season next year to automate, get rid of some of those manual processes, some of those tasks that just strangle firms, strangle people. There are things you guys as a firm can do today to get started. So I'm going to kick it off to Tiffany. This is going to be a discussion between myself and you guys, all of the people on the call. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have and try to have this more of a discussion. And I will then lobby the questions over to Tiffany. I will be monitoring chat, so don't hesitate at all to just throw a note to me, and I'll make sure I get it over to her. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tiffany. She'll tell you a little bit more about her experience, why she's so qualified to do this call, and to tell you how to get ready for a busy season. So with that, Tiffany, the floor is yours.
Right. Great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. As Betsy said, I'm Tiffany Roussel. I've been in the industry for over a decade, going into my 12th tax season. Most of my career, I was living and breathing inside of a CPA firm, on the other side of this table today, in the weeds, doing the work, everything from actually e-filing tax returns to assembling tax returns, doing extensions, evaluating processes, vetting any new tech, and automation. So it's kind of what brings the subject for me close to heart. So in today's session, we're really going to be focused on what firms can do in the next 10 weeks to prepare and set up for success as it relates to technology and automation. So our agenda for the next half hour will focus on 4 main areas. The first is reflecting on the past spring and fall busy season. How did it go? The second is evaluating or assessing any areas that may need improvement. The third is reviewing your tech stack to find any siloed or disconnected apps that could either A, be eliminated or be integrated. And then last, setting a plan for these next 10 weeks, identifying quick wins so that you don't find yourself 6 months behind on any transformation goals. Along the way, I'll call out automation opportunities that maybe you're doing today. You've been thinking about it, maybe that wasn't even on your radar, but you might be interested in learning more to help you towards your goals. And we would love this to be interactive, as Betsy mentioned, so please drop a question in the chat or just share an idea, give a thumbs up, if something's resonating with you. Would love to hear more about pain points, learn more about what you're doing, in hopes that I can provide some feedback and thoughts for you. All right, so let's start with reflect. We cannot start a plan for automation without first looking back at what happened. So if you've not done so yet, and if you have, kudos, I would highly suggest holding post-October 15th debrief meetings or surveying your team members out as to how did this busy season go? What went well and what didn't? You really want to sit down and collect all feedback from all roles. This isn't just leadership at a table. We need to be asking admins, assembly team members, preparers, reviewers, anyone involved throughout the full scope of the process as it relates to each individual step to really learn how this went. And if you have a pain point that's just sitting on the top of your mind right now, this was just a disaster this year, or even something that just went phenomenally well, drop it into the chat. I would love to hear it. I want to talk about maybe reports or metrics that you've been collecting and suggest a few to you based on process efficiency or performance. It's really critical, adjacent to any debrief session or any surveying, that you pull reports. I've experienced firsthand in my career elevated emotions or assumptions, even over-exaggerated pitfalls, and often I found these to be untrue when pulling data. So firms really shouldn't be spending time on problems in which data does not support. So a few KPIs or metrics that I find useful and have in my career, talking to firms every day. These are, visible data that they would like to see. So I want to share a few. The first being turnaround time. You should be looking at turnaround time by tax return type, by location, partner, complexity, to understand why does it take some returns longer to do than others. What tools or what processes is one partner following versus another? And is that affecting your overall turnaround time? Another would be looking at year-over-year comparisons. So for example, when were returns completed by date last year to this year? Which team members, offices, regions, etc., which ones are trending ahead and which ones are falling behind? This will help you answer the question, is this a resource issue or is it a technology constraint? You can also be looking at returns sitting in particular statuses. So look at the number of days you were waiting for client information or the number of days a given return sat in prep or review. This is going to help you identify any backlog or bottleneck issues. You should also know, on average, how long it takes you to prepare or review returns based on complexity. And firms measure complexity in a variety of different ways, and maybe you have protocol for this, but it could be number of states, number of K1s, etc. So from there, you could use realization, or you could use, exceeded time entry to further explore returns that just simply blew the budget. This is really going to help you evaluate areas that will need evaluation, further exploration, or a solution to resolve. And with any of these metrics and others, you have a really big automation opportunity. With real-time reports, right? So either doing integration or presenting real-time dashboards, that'll allow you to measure performance and efficiency in real time. It's always better to be proactive than reactive. And if you set these up now, assuming you don't, and you've been pulling historic data, if you get ready to set these up now in the next 10 weeks, you're set up for success for January because you'll be able to address issues in real time as they're happening versus finding out after April when you've already spent time and money and it's considered too late. So after reflecting what's next, we want to evaluate. So up until this point, we've collected feedback, we have data to support our findings. We should be evaluating and identifying the areas that need improving. So I'm going just to start by naming a few. So first, any paper-reliant process should be evaluated. This could include the mailing of engagement letters, organizers, printing out tax returns. At any point in time, you should be able to say, this is my percentage of clients on a paper process versus my percentage of clients on an electronic process. Again, review this percentage by an office or by partners, compare them to one another. And this is going to tell you if certain team members aren't following your standard process, they're not using the technology tools that you've given them, or perhaps don't have, or maybe they're following partner preferences. Consider an electronic mandate. Modern firms are as paperless as possible. All right, next, manual data entry processes should always be evaluated. So an example of this, think of new client setup. Do you have admin team members setting up a client in more than one system? If you are doing this, consider, locking down your downstream solutions, having that information entered in one time into your system of truth, and using APIs or other automation connectors to be able to flow that data through. This is going to help you with overall data integrity, keeping your client IDs, your client names, addresses, staffing current, right, throughout the course of the year, because we all know those things change. And we've all found ourselves doing data cleanup efforts every year since forever. Yes, I have a question. You're on mute, Betsy.
I didn't know if you were going to see my hand raised or not, so I'm glad it worked. One of the questions is, how do you recommend voicing areas of improvement internally? Sometimes this could be a little uncomfortable to raise your hand and say, hey, this is something that we could do better. You don't want to alienate anyone or call out any employees. Any kind of recommendations on how the best way or best practice to say, hey, this is what can be done better without making someone feel that they've been spotlighted?
Sure. There's definitely certain varying degrees of inconsistency across team members, and that doesn't just mean individuals. It could mean a whole office or a whole service line, right? Or department. I think the biggest and most important thing is top-down communication. If it's coming from the top, it's coming from the leadership, that this is the standard way that we do something. We have seen team members not do this, right? Not calling out individual names, but here's our New York office against our New Jersey office. Look how they're comparing. But top-down communication and enforcement at a leadership level is going to help ensure that standardized processes can be adopted. What's even next to that as importance would be holding people accountable. So it's not, we're using this platform this year and this is why. Set it down and walk away for 4 months and check back in April to see, did they do this? It's actually holding team members accountable throughout the course of it. You should be checking in every week. How many tax returns did they send electronically? They're not sending any. We're not waiting until after. So as proactive as you can be about adoption, and then wondering what's causing adoption issues. Is that lack of training? Do we need to go on a roadshow? Do we need to host webinars? Did they get materials that they needed? They need to be set up for success to use the tools and the automation processes that you put in place, not just communicated. So all of those things will factor into it and help make the transition easier from what have I always been doing, because that's, their idea of easy versus what's this new process and why is this making this efficient? Bring them as a part of the conversation. Get them excited about it too.
Agree. I think that's all really good advice. And the advice shouldn't just be once a year, right? If it's a common thing to get the feedback and to ask for people out there, makes it more commonplace. So thank you.
All right, so we're talking about manual data entry and data integrity across systems. Another example I want to talk about is there's data that you collect from clients that you may manually be going into other systems and updating. An example of this would be you've requested a bank authorization form for direct debits. Do you have someone going into time and billing and entering that information in? That's an automation that can be put in place. Are you updating multiple systems when you get an engagement letter back, or you have 7216 consent tracking? Those are other examples of automated steps we could take based on the receipt of the signed forms. So these are examples I'm giving you, and I hope that you're thinking in your head, what are manual things? And it might not seem like an urgent matter because it's working, but every manual pickup, set down, touch point causes room for error. It's also taking away time from a person that could be freed up to do other things that just makes their career more enjoyable. We're sitting in a state of an industry with a talent shortage. We want people to enjoy their jobs, not just working at a firm, but working anywhere. And, people coming into this industry don't want to do these meticulous, tedious tasks. So if we can take those away, automate them for accuracy and efficiency, and free those people up to do compliance work, win-win scenario.
And I also think that if you tell the team, your staff, hey, this is changing, we're getting rid of what is so hard manual that there's hope next season will be better. I think that's something as well. We know it's a problem, we're here to fix it. I think that helps.
It's also letting them know that their voice is heard. So if you do sit down and have these sessions or collect feedback and they're telling you, this didn't work this way, I was getting, inconsistent data, or I wasn't being told this by the preparer when I picked up the return for review, letting them know that you heard them, you are addressing the issue, and when. It's important.
Yes, great.
So another couple examples I want to give of areas that you could be evaluating would be, are you manually downloading documents like completed organizers, PBCs, source documents, signed engagement letters, 8879s, and taking them into a document management system? Again, it doesn't seem like the hardest function, but when you're doing that one by one times the volume of engagements that you have, that's time, right? That's time and money. Each of those things can be automated, via routing directly from the system in which it's received to document management system. And then the last one here I want to talk about is lack of visibility. It's intangible, so it's really tough to measure. But if you do not have visibility into the status of any engagement, this should have your attention, because being informed with insights will allow you to address, make decisions, and improve your overall production and efficiency. So if there's something you're not seeing, I don't know where any of my tax returns are. I don't know how many documents the client uploaded to me and when. These are important to be able to see in order to move production forward. Now I want to get into reviewing your tech stack. So not only is doing a full tech stack review appropriate for your budget, but it's really critical to achieve the goal of a unified platform and experience. So this is for your internal team members and your clients. We see this every day, right, Betsy, in our industry. There's firm employees and clients that are logging into multiple systems over the course of an engagement. The firm's goal should be to consolidate wherever possible and integrate when not. So think of how many ways you can send an engagement letter today. Can you print it off, mail it? Can you attach it to an email? Do you have more than one portal and an e-signature solution? These are all processes and tools that should be put on a list to be evaluated. What about receiving information that you requested from a client? Is tax using one tool and audits using another? So when you're doing this review, down all the line items that you see on screen, which are just listing out a few, you should be identifying which tools are in the stack and are they a candidate for elimination, consolidation or replacement, or integration?
Me
Yes.
again. Couple questions. So one of the questions is, how does HubSync assist moving firms from manual processes that are currently in place, and probably hated and loved at the same time, but they're used to it, to a more automated? Does HubSync do something to help with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so HubSync is an end-to-end platform. We're doing everything from automated engagement letter delivery all the way through tax return delivery, collecting e-signatures with all these dashboards and reports that are sitting on top. So we are taking firms from a historic manual process, meaning I send out paper organizers, I send out paper engagement letters, and taking them into 2020-24, going into 2020-25, and giving them an automated and electronic experience. And it's all in one unified platform. And because we are modern, right? We're web-based, SaaS-based, we live in the cloud, we're built on AWS, we're fast, secure, and we're integrated with third parties. So when we think about a tech stack review, we're not going to replace everything that you have, nor would we want to. You will retain your CRM system or ERP, for example, but it's much more beneficial to have data flowing from your CRM or ERP to HubSync to pre-populate an engagement letter, for example. It's very beneficial to be connected to the tax software to pre-populate an organizer or generate a document request list. And these are just a couple of these examples. We help you by doing exactly what we're doing today, right? We're providing a level of consulting, right? We bring a lot of experience to the table with our backgrounds, right? We've been in your shoes. We know what you're up against. And then we consider ourselves a partner versus a vendor. So we want to be here with you along the way with trainings, right? Any materials that you need. We help you with marketing communications. Whatever we can do to help provide a seamless transition is what we're here for.
Relatedly, a similar question was, how do current clients, maybe some best practices if you know them, deal with change management, switching from multiple systems to one system? Is there any sort of best practice that comes to mind that you've seen when helping our clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, change management definitely starts within the firm with the culture, right? I think over communicating is not a bad thing. Bringing people into the conversation and letting them feel as if they are a part of the decision is really important when it comes to change management. Let them have a voice, a vote, do some of that pre-evaluating, be a part of, user acceptance testing, let them get their hands on it. No one likes surprises. So if you tell me on January 1st, I'm just going to be using this and I didn't know it was coming, right? That's a little bit of a surprise that can set a little bit of a shockwave through you, and also cause, the individual or person more stress than what's needed. So overshare when you can, and the why behind it. Why is this important to our firm? At the end of the day, is the important factor the client experience, because it's your team members, after all, that have to interact with the clients. They're getting the phone calls. Is this going to better that experience for yourself as an internal employee, make your life easier, make you happier, and your clients, bring them into that why or that understanding.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about doing this tech stack review. Automation opportunities with any modern cloud-based tool, but especially HubSync, is going to include the ability to do a lot of these functions in bulk and integrate with the third parties. So from here, what's left to do? We need to plan. We've spent this time collecting feedback. Don't just let feedback from surveys or feedback from meeting notes that you took, accumulate in an Excel sheet, sit on a list, and sit on a shelf to die. We need to make a plan, right, with this list to set a goal to achieve it. If you could even do just one thing in the next 10 weeks before busy season, then you're setting yourself up for success. If you wait and you put yourself into this after tax season mindset, and I promise you, I've said it too. Everybody is guilty of saying that can wait until after tax season. We're too close to busy season. But if you can just do one thing, you'll avoid, right, pushing back that one thing another 6 months into after tax season mode. So based on all that feedback, make a plan. Identify quick wins. Quick wins on your list should be considered, lightweight, right? High results, low effort, low income, right? They're quick. So identify those. We talked about top-down communication and mandates. Don't give people too many options, right? If they have the free reign to use an alternative way, they will. If there's a legacy system or tool that's still running and they have access to it, they might just take the easy way out. So consider shutting down that isolated or disparate tool.
Yep.
Another quick win that I want to address is extensions. When we were talking about KPIs, we talked about bottlenecks. One of the biggest bottlenecks is stopping tax return preparation to do extensions in March, in April. Identify clients now that you're going to extend in January and February. And maybe you already have a policy in place that does this, or you have something in your engagement letter that says, if you don't give us this information by this date, we're extending. I see that in engagement letters all the time, but what I don't see is enforcement of the policy. So when that date hits, pull that list or start on it now. If you can identify clients that need to be extended now, get that work done in January and February with a batch tool, right? The ability to create extensions in bulk. HubSync has one. I'm happy to provide more information on it. But if you can get that work done out of the way, you will free up your technical staff to actually work on returns, which is what matters. And then last, we had talked about all these reporting tools or, reporting methods and KPIs that will help you identify issues early on and in real time. Write down what you want to see. I want to measure X by Y. Write down those thoughts now. Let's get them set up before January so that 2025 comes and they're at your fingertips and there's no more static, stale Excel files that we're evaluating after the fact. All right, I think I've got about 5 minutes left, Betsy. Do I have any more questions in the chat?
Some interest around KPIs and kind of really how the bulk extension tool can work.
Yep, sure.
And if it is a really time to add something like a bulk extensions tool.
Yes. When we think about what we can do as far as, a new module or something in time for next busy season, batch extensions is a great candidate. It's very easy to set up, get deployed to you quickly. Training is minimal. It's usually more of a centralized team that can handle. But how it works is it's fully, API driven. It's going to allow you to create, upload, and release extensions. Right now, we've been working with no tax due across, partnerships, S corps, individuals, 990s. We support all of those types. At the Fed and the state level, you'll be able to do all the work from HubSync versus going in and opening up the software. But they can all be done in batch, right, by the hundreds. And it's a huge ROI saver because if you even just consider you're doing, one extension takes 10 minutes, right? You can do, hundreds in that time. So.
Well, I can think of my own experience, how we extended and what a hassle as a client we probably were, because we we kept saying we weren't, we would, and so just to get that out of the way, how much time they wasted you can waste per client, really.
Mm.
Just extend them, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, fully agree. And then with the KPIs, if it's something that you want, you're not sure if it's possible because it would require connecting to more than one system, I suggest we just set up a call and talk through it. And it's something that we might be able to get up and running for you in the short term.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else to add before we end the webinar?
I don't think so. As Betsy mentioned, this is part one. So there will be a part two in December as we get closer. Maybe if you take some feedback away from today, have yourself some homework, you'll be coming into the call with more traction and ready to get something done.
All right. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, everyone, for joining and for your questions. And have a wonderful rest of your October. And we will see you next month for our next upcoming webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.